thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Erato, and with me, as always, is a guy who can play the harp with his toes, Mike Van de Bogert.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you once again for tuning in to the show. Just a couple of announcements here before we get going. So first, I would like to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Alec Weber. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
Thank you.
If you want to call the show and leave us a voicemail, you can call 208-391-6913.
And we just did a Patreon episode a few days ago.
Yes.
It was all the people that called the numbers, and we had some really hilarious calls.
They all got it.
They all got it. They all understood what this was supposed to be.
They all understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in hearing that.
If you want to know what that means.
Yes.
You have to be a patron or member.
Patreon member, YouTube member, Spreaker memberships, Apple subscriptions.
Not X yet?
No. Probably never will happen.
Never will happen.
If you want to check out some of the other shows on the Unknown Media Group Network, we've got some great shows, including Peanut Butter and Mountains Podcast, Off the Trails, The Weirdos We Know, and Who Runs This Park. And hopefully...
we have a couple more. They're interested. We're just dialing in some of the details.
A couple more in the hopper coming up here. So stay tuned for that. We already talked about supporting the show. Yep. What else?
Yeah, we talked about calling in, supporting the show. I think that's everything. All right, everybody, let's gear up and get out to explore Locations Unknown. A young man's quest for freedom leads him to abandon society, hitchhike across America, and live in the Alaskan wilderness. His journey, inspired by literary ideals, ends tragically in an abandoned bus shrouded in mystery. Join us this week as we explore the incredible life and the story of Christopher McCandless, also known as Alexander Supertramp. So, most people probably already know what we're going to be talking about if they know that name, even when we were explaining it. But how many people do you think nowadays know the story?
I bet it's not as known by the younger generation as you think. I saw the movie. I don't think I ever read the book. But I didn't remember the details of the story.
When's the last time you saw the movie?
Probably once when it came out.
What was it called again?
Into the Wild.
Into the Wild. I thought it was Out in the Wild. See, I haven't seen it in many years either. I love the movie.
Yeah, it got amazing reviews. I was actually looking it up on Rotten Tomatoes before we started, and it had an 83% critic score and 89% audience score.
There you go. Critics and audience liked it.
Yeah, it was really...
It's a rare combo.
Really good. It was done by Sean Penn. Just a really great movie. It's one of the most famous wilderness movies out there. I mean, it's up there with like the DiCaprio movie, The Revenant. Remember that movie?
Yes.
And 127 Hours, another wild movie.
Yeah. Yep.
I think at some point we should do an episode on him.
On the 127 Hours guy?
Yeah.
Or The Revenant, or both.
No, the Revenant I don't think is a real story.
It's based on a real... The movie's, I think, embellished, but there's a real guy who's kind of like
127 Hours, the scene where I won't get into the graphic
I'm going to be honest, I never saw that movie.
Well, there's
because I didn't want to watch that scene.
That scene where he has to free himself. I'll just say that.
I was already a paramedic. I don't need to see.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But really great movie. And then other movies like Alive. That one came out a while ago. We had to watch that one in high school for some reason.
I didn't watch it in high school.
Do you remember what that movie was about?
Nope. I don't think I saw that one either.
1972, Andy's flight crashes and they have to survive in the mountains and they end up resorting to cannibalism. Like, it's a true story.
Oh, I know the story. I never saw the movie.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So, but yeah, I mean, this is up there with one of the the highest regarded wilderness movies you could find, and it's based on an entirely true story. And we're gonna go through all the details and tell you about what happened to him, and even information on the bus, like why was that thing out there? I had no clue. Kind of an interesting story.
No, I like that. That's good. So this all takes place in the wilderness close to the northern border of Denali National Park and Preserve. So the sub-location is Stampede Trail area near Shoshana River. Denali is 9,492 square miles. So it's about 7.8 times larger than the state of Rhode Island. So it's huge.
Yes.
How long did it take you to get there?
We drove up from Anchorage, and it took us at least a half a day just to get there.
That's
driving.
Wild.
And
that's
then
insane.
We only were able to hike in the park for a day. And then we couldn't get back the way we came because of wildfires and had to take the Alaskan highway back to Anchorage, which was a 16-hour drive.
That sounds like a very Alaskan story.
Yeah, that we did without...
That was like a Tuesday.
Yeah, we hiked all day and then drove for 16 hours. And me and my buddy, it was Flavio, and we were so tired towards the end of it. We were slamming those giant Red Bulls, and I still couldn't keep my eyes open. Like, we were so tired.
Just risking cardiac events
on
Red Bull to stay awake, and it's not even working.
I remember what the firefighters said to us when we were in line to try to go back. We asked him, like, so when will the road be open? He's like, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week. So it's really up to the fire. Like, well, that's not good. Our flight's in 2 days.
He said it's really up to the fire.
Yeah, that's what he told us.
That's hilarious. He didn't even want to answer you.
He probably was asked 1,000 times already, like, when's the road opening?
Or it's like only you because you're not from there.
It's so real quick here. I was just before I came here, I was watching some videos from the horrible fire going on in LA.
Oh yeah,
now.
Yeah. I had a friend like that lost her house.
Yeah, and it brought back not that anything that we just drove through a fire, it doesn't compare to what's going on in LA, but we had to have a spotter truck. Like, they were still letting people down the road up to Denali when we drove through it. And so we had a spotter truck with lights on it in front of us because there was so much smoke you couldn't see more than like 5 feet in front of the car. And
so you're being like, kind of brought through the road.
And on both sides there were flames like 20 feet in the air, just 15 feet off the road. Like, the fire was raging on both sides, and the spotter truck was taking cars down the highway.
That's wild.
And we found out that they closed it like an hour after we went through, because obviously that isn't safe. So,
like, dumb southern state guys. Yeah, you go.
It was bad. Anchorage was covered in smoke. Like, it was.
And you like drove through the fire?
Like, to get to that, we didn't know it was even going on.
Yeah.
We got there and they were still letting cars through, and we were looking, we're like, should we keep going? Like, let's do it. We're already here.
Well, I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah, worked out.
Okay.
The good thing is up there's really no population living in that area. So, like, it was just burning forest. Unlike what's going on in LA, it's just devastating the city.
Yeah, it's like schools and homes and all of everything.
Iconic buildings that have been there forever have just been leveled.
Yeah, tons of people are displaced. We should like put some links to some places in the show notes to how people can help out.
Probably just the Red Cross is a good starting point.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a listing, but
yeah.
All right. Well, people are going to be mad that we took 10 minutes to get into this, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So the park was established on February 26, 1979, and sees about 548,226 visitors per year. That's as of 2022. That's, it's weird. I feel like that's more than I thought it would be, just because of the remoteness.
Yeah.
A little bit about the habitation of the area. So archaeological evidence suggests human habitation in the area now encompassed by Denali, and the preserve dates back to at least 12,000 years ago. So the land has been home to various Athabascan, peoples, including the Koyukon, the Denanina. I don't think I'm saying. I'm trying. Denanina, the Tanana, and Upper Kuskokwim groups, among others. You did this to me on purpose, didn't you?
I put the phonetic.
I know, and even with the phonetic spellings, it's hard. And you think we'd be good at it because of all the native tribes in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
But I think it's just the ones we're used to saying all the time.
Yeah.
They were hunter-gatherers who adapted to the harsh subarctic environment, utilizing the resources of the boreal forest, tundra, and rivers for food, clothing, and shelter. One notable find was a portion of a prehistoric Athabascan arrow discovered in 2009 along the Tekliniku River, providing insight into ancient hunting practices. This artifact, made from the caribou antler, indicates the use of sophisticated hunting techniques. The presence of these groups is further evidenced by the discovery of ancient campsites, tools, and other artifacts that suggest seasonal migrations and use of the land for hunting, fishing, and gathering. What a wild way to live.
Yeah.
Like, just compared to society now, just moving around in the woods.
Just following your food.
It, like, literally until you die. You just go around and follow. It's like just like going in the office for 40 hours a week.
You know what? That's what they know. They don't know anything different.
Exactly.
So that's their reality. They probably don't think anything.
They're looking back like, can you believe they didn't even have arrows? Like,
I mean, if you told them how we live now, they'd probably rather do what they're doing.
I don't think they'd even understand what you were saying.
That's true.
I saw a funny meme the other day, and it was a Ring doorbell plugged into a sofa that had a charging part, and the caption just said, "Try imagining and explaining this to somebody in the 90s that you were charging your doorbell on your couch." Yeah, I just charging my doorbell with my couch. I'm like, what?
I always thought, like, what if you had a time machine, you went back to medieval times and showed like a king of England an iPhone?
They'd have you hung.
Or they would think you were
Black
a god.
magic. Yeah. Black magic or God, one of the two.
Yeah.
Both end in you dying.
Yeah.
So some interesting facts about the area. We're going to get
really going off.
We're going to get dragged by the audience. Mount Denali. It's home to Denali, the highest peak in North America, standing at 20,310 feet. The name Denali comes from the Koyukon Athabascan language, meaning the high one. Denali supports one of the last remaining wild populations of grizzly bears in the United States, along with wolves, moose, caribou, Dall sheep, and a plethora of bird species, including the golden eagle. Located at high altitudes, Denali is an excellent spot for viewing the northern lights or aurora borealis, especially during the winter months when the nights are long. With over 6 million acres, Denali is one of the largest national parks in the U.S., offering vast areas of wilderness where one can experience solitude and untouched nature. There is a 92-mile park road providing access into the heart of the park, but it's only open to private vehicles for the first 15 miles. The remaining stretch is serviced by buses, preserving the wildlife experience for visitors and wildlife alike. That's kind of cool. So it's like, even though there's probably not super high traffic, they even further limit it.
Yeah, and that's the highway we took into the park, and obviously you could only go so far. Yeah, and we didn't have time to get on a bus and go in. There was plenty of hiking to do where
just
we could get
anywhere.
To. Yeah,
that's wild. I want to go there badly.
Yeah, it's cool.
More than 99% of the park is designated wilderness, offering unparalleled opportunities for backcountry hiking, camping, and exploration. Permits are required for overnight backcountry stays. There's sled dog kennels. So Denali is famous for its sled dog kennels, one of the last working kennels in the U.S. National Park System. Visitors can see demonstrations and learn about the history of dog sledding in Alaska. Did you guys do anything like that?
Dog sledding?
No, touristy stuff, like watch a demonstration of the sled dogs in the park.
No, we did. We did a glacial kayaking one day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we did a wildlife tour on a boat through Kenai Fjords National Park. That's mostly
like attached
ocean.
to it.
Yeah, it's like out in the water.
Okay.
And we actually were really lucky. We saw some breaches up close, and the guy driving the boat's like, this is pretty rare. We see that like once a year maybe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we did a lot of that kind of stuff. We tried to like maximize the...
Yeah, you seem to have had a very wonderful experience that you were underplaying in the way you're describing it right now.
It was, we were there for a week, and we tried to do too much. Alaska's so big, you could go there for like 2 weeks and just do stuff around Anchorage, then another 2 weeks and just do stuff around Fairbanks, and then we tried to cram too much in, and I think it kind of felt more like...
Alaska's
like a job and not like a vacation.
That's wild.
So...
Yeah, you and Michelle, like, she loves Alaska.
Yeah.
I need to go to Alaska.
Yeah, I don't think I could live there, but it's super fun. I could visit again. I'm going
to be going back, so you can come with me.
Yeah, we'll go to Denali. We'll do some...
I want to climb Denali.
We'll hike to the spot where the bus used to be.
Oh, we can't say that on the air. We'll get at odds with the national park system because they've had to rest. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
So glaciers, the park contains numerous glaciers, with the Muldrow Glacier being one of the most visible from the park's road. These glaciers contribute to the park's dramatic and changing landscape. So a little bit about the climate. Our friends at the Köppen Climate Classification System designate Denali National Park as a subarctic climate. So there are long winters are followed by short growing seasons. 80% of the bird population returns after cold months, raising their young. Most mammals and other wildlife in the park spend the brief summer months preparing for winter and raising their young. Summers are usually cool and damp, but temperatures in the 70s are not rare. The weather is so unpredictable that there have even been instances of snow in August. The north and south side of the Alaskan Ridge have completely different climates. So the Gulf of Alaska carries moisture to the south side, but the mountains block the water to the north side. This brings a drier climate and huge temperature fluctuations to the north. The south has transitional maritime continental climates with moister, cooler summers and warm winters. So the terrain Denali National Park and Preserve includes the central highest portion of the Alaska Range, together with many of the glaciers and glacier valleys returning southwards out of the range. To the north, the park and preserve encompass the valleys of the McKinley, Tokelat, and Foraker rivers, as well as the Kantishnu and Wyoming hills. The George Parks Highway runs along the eastern edge of the park, crossing the Alaska Range at the divide between the valleys of the Chiltinu River and the Nenana River. So Denali towers over the landscape at 20,310 feet tall. As we said before, it's the tallest mountain in North America. It's 3.5 vertical miles above its base, making it a mile taller from base to summit than Mount Everest. So that's actually, I did not know that. That is wild.
Yeah, it's a big mountain.
So it's technically a higher climb than Everest, but it's at a lower altitude, which is what makes it not as difficult.
Yeah, it towers over the landscape when you're driving up to it. You can't miss it. Yeah.
Denali's base sits at about 2,000 feet above sea level and rises over 3.5 miles to its 20,310 foot summit. Everest begins at 14,000 feet, then summits at 29,000 feet. That's crazy. Its base is 2,000. So that is just like no picture will ever do it justice type of differentiator.
Yeah, and if I'm remembering correctly, it's a tough hike up, to summit Denali. It's not like summiting some of the 12ers in Colorado.
It's going to take several days.
It's a tough.
I'm sure somebody can do it in a day, but normal.
People do it, but yeah. It's not for the, your weekend warriors.
That's why I want to do it so bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, its dominant presence reminds all that come to the park of the immense power of the earth. Glaciers etch out the land and fill up 16% of the park, appearing like white snakes slithering out of the mountains. Fossils of the park's prehistoric past show a story of a warmer past where dinosaurs roamed what is now the park. The Alaska Range is a 600-mile-long arc of the mountains that stretches from the Alaska-Canada border all the way to the Alaska Peninsula. The range is the highest at its midsection, a vast region of towering peaks and massive glaciers that lies within Denali National Park. Some of the types of dangers present, grizzly bears are a huge one. So both grizzly and black bears inhabit Denali. Hikers should always have bear spray on them, make noise to avoid surprising the bears, and hike in groups and know how to react if encountering a bear. There have been bear attacks in the park, so vigilance is crucial. Among the bears, you have wolves, caribou, moose. Moose can be very aggressive, especially during mating season or when protecting their young. So you want to maintain a safe distance and know how to respond if charged. That is vital. There are Dall sheep, golden and bald eagles. There are no reptiles and only one amphibian in the park. So it's just too cold for any other stuff.
Yep.
I mean, they sound like it's like survive the winter, and then as soon as it's warm, eat as much as you can for the next winter.
You have 3 months to just gorge.
Yeah, you're just all either in winter or preparing for winter.
Yeah.
I need to move to the ocean south.
Yeah.
It's incredibly remote. So the sheer remoteness of Denali means that help can be hours or days away. Hikers need to be self-sufficient, carry emergency communication devices like satellite phones or PLBs, personal locator beacons, and be prepared for self-rescue scenarios. You can rent that type of stuff too, so you really don't need to be able to afford to buy it. If you're going on a trip, you can get PLBs and stuff, and they're not expensive to rent.
And they have PLBs now that you can buy the device and then pay for the subscription only when you need it. So like,
oh, I think I've seen that.
Yeah, so like you pay for it while you're hiking, and then you can turn it back off and just keep the device.
Yep.
Like if you do a lot of hiking.
Yep, it's smart to do.
Yeah. And the iPhones now have satellite texting.
Oh yeah.
So if you have a new iPhone, and you get no cell reception, you can send satellite texts.
Yeah, and it's expensive enough that you won't be browsing.
Well, I believe it actually is free currently for iPhone users.
Really?
It's new. It's not going to be free forever.
There you go.
Yeah.
Education and planning. So attend ranger-led programs or talks on backcountry hiking in Denali. They're the ones who are the experts. They're there every day. You want to make sure you have your permits and study the park maps well. Layering your clothing for variable weather is really smart. So you want to include waterproof and windproof layers, warm hats and gloves, and extra socks. And you can add and remove stuff as necessary. It makes it real easy versus having like a giant coat. So you're either just too hot or too cold. You want to carry a reliable map and compass. Consider a GPS device or app and know how to use the tools. I would go with GPS. I would use all the things at my disposal. Have backups, but
GPS, but I would also know how to use a compass and Wayfind with it just in case.
I would over-prepare for my trip to Alaska.
My first trip, the faded Canyonlands, I lost my GPS.
Yeah.
But then I found it on the hike back out. So
it was so helpful.
Yeah.
Pack satellite phone, you mentioned that, or personal locator beacon and cell, because cell service is virtually non-existent unless you have a satellite phone. Bear spray, you definitely want bear spray.
Yes.
All the bears are up there. Keep it accessible. Have a good, comprehensive first aid kit and know how to use the basic first aid stuff. What's worse than having a first aid kit is not knowing how to do anything.
Yeah. I mean, if you plan to do a lot of hiking, there's courses they offer where you can take like a basic kind of wilderness first aid like class.
Yeah, just to get how to control some stuff.
And you get trained by like actual professionals that know what they're doing, and you don't need to be like a doctor or somebody to understand that this is basic stuff, but it could really save your life or make your pain and suffering a lot less.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Sufficient food, including high energy snacks, and a means to purify water. You do not want to catch giardia in a deep backcountry. No. That would really ruin your trip.
Yes.
You want to make sure people know where you are, and then you stick to your itinerary, so your expected return times, and you always register with the park rangers as well. While you're at it, practice leave no trace principles to minimize your impact on the environment, which also contributes to your safety by not disturbing wildlife and altering natural conditions.
All right, so I will get into the character profile and timeline now. So obviously the character of this episode is Christopher Johnson McCandless. He was born February 12th, 1968. We normally have a date missing, so this wasn't really a date missing because people knew what he was doing, but this was the last record of someone speaking or seeing him, so that was on April 28th of 1992. His remains were found. He was a male, age 24. He was 5'6", 140 pounds. He had brown hair, brown eyes. This is the clothing that he would have had when he initially started his stay at the bus. So he had a backpack. This was his primary means of carrying his gear. Though we don't have any detailed information on its size or quality. He had a sleeping bag. He had a miniature camping stove. He had a .22 caliber rifle with about 400 rounds of ammunition. He bought this, I believe, when he was in Anchorage. He intended to use this for hunting small game, but he learned that it was inadequate for larger animals like moose or bear. So I don't know. I mean, it might not be, well, if you're going to be living out there for a year, you might want a higher caliber rifle.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, if your plan is to live off the land and hunt, you're not going to be taking moose or caribou down with a .22.
Yeah, you'd have to be a really good shot.
Yeah.
Like direct, dead center in the head.
Yeah.
Because it would take it down, but you'd have to be close.
I mean,
and it would have to be a perfect shot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back when I was a kid when we used to go deer hunting. I think we had a 30-06. So the rifle I used for deer.
Yes.
And moose and caribou are much larger.
Yes.
So.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing.
But that's a lot of iron to carry around and hike. I mean, this guy constantly moved around. So he also had some books with him. He had a guide to edible plants. He had Jack London's Call of the Wild and White Fang and Tolstoy's Family Happiness. Food. This one kind of surprised me that he didn't bring more food with him. So at the start, he had a 10-pound bag of rice as his primary food supply. He also had some ramen noodles, candy, and a small amount of other non-perishable food items. So that just not shocked me, but seemed like a little inadequate for food. Even if you're planning to live off the land, I think you would try and bring more food, but I don't know, that's just me. He had jeans, which
I think he was probably overcompensating for what he would get on the land.
Yeah, maybe. So he had jeans, and our thoughts on jeans.
Yeah.
They're
don't wear jeans.
Very inefficient when wet. Hiking boots, his footwear, which were described by Jim Gallion, one of the individuals he met on his trip, and the last person to see him, as being very poor condition. He had a rain jacket, a lightweight one, which probably was not sufficient for prolonged exposure in the Alaska wilderness. For base layers, he had some lightweight clothing for warmth. He had a camera, which he did capture pictures along his journey. He actually had a journal and a pen, and we'll learn that his journal was one of the primary tools that people used to piece together what happened to him and was a major inspiration for the book and movie that came out eventually. He had rubber boots that were gifted by Jim Gallion when he dropped Chris off. He had maps with him. He did not have detailed topographical maps of the area, which I think would have been crucial for navigating around in this area. He also had a compass, but from what I read, his navigational skills were not up to the task of navigating in the wilderness with a compass. And then he did have a multi-tool or pocket knife and some matches and a lighter. So his personality, people described him as idealistic, independent, self-reliant, adventurous, a risk taker, very smart young man, ethical, stubborn, defiant, and sadly probably naive and overconfident. So, I mean, he sounds like a really bright young man, like not a stupid person.
Yeah.
And very obviously self-reliant because he made it out here a very long time. So, medical issues, there was nothing of note before he started the trip that I could find. So he seemed like a pretty healthy young man. And experience in the wilderness, he did demonstrate a lot of resourcefulness for foraging, food, hunting, and living off the land in remote areas. So, he's not a noob or a rookie by any stretch. And then just a couple of the characters that we'll be talking about that might come up in the timeline. So we have a couple that go by, the Anchorage couple. They're a pair who stumbles upon an abandoned bus along Alaska's Shoshone River in August 1992. They read Chris's SOS note on the rear door and perceive a rotting smell entering the bus. Jan, Perez, and Bob, a couple who meets Chris in the summer of 1990 when he is searching for edible berries alongside U.S. Highway 101. Estranged from her own son, Jan takes a special interest in Chris. Charlie, he's an old man who lives outside of Bullhead City, Arizona, and suggests that Chris live in an empty RV, which Charlie is the caretaker. Ronald Franz is an 80-year-old man who gives Chris a ride from Salton City, California to Grand Junction, Colorado. After Chris's death, Franz heeds the young man's advice to hit the road and live off the grid. Jim Galion, which I already mentioned, he was the last person to see Chris alive. In April 1992, he drops off the young man on Alaska's Stampede Trail, giving Chris his boots and advising him to reconsider his plan to live off the land. And finally, Wayne Westerberg, he is a grain elevator operator who befriends Chris in north central, I think it's Nebraska, in the fall of 1990, and offers him a ride, a place to stay, and then a job. So jumping into the timeline now, we're kind of going to go back to when he graduated college, because this guy was all over the country, the western part of it. I mean, reading through the various stops, I mean, it's crazy how many places he crammed into just a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, so we start on May 12th of 1990. He graduates from Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. He tells his parents that he's going to spend the summer traveling in his car, a used yellow Datsun. June of 1990, so he mails his final college transcript and a brief note to his parents' home in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. This would actually be the last time his family ever hears from him, which is kind of crazy. So he kind of cut off his family entirely after this point, at least from communication. Mm-hmm. So July 6th of 1990, he arrives at Lake Mead National Recreation Area in Nevada. On July 10th of 1990, his car ended up getting damaged by a flash flood, so he actually abandoned his car.
I just saw a picture of that before. I'm going to go back to it right here.
Yeah, there it is, the Datsun. And he loads all of his belongings in his backpack and just sets out on foot. So he just left his car there. So between July and August of 1990, he hitchhikes to California's Lake Tahoe, then hikes into the Sierra Nevada mountain range. He then travels to the Cascade Mountains, across the lava beds of the Columbia River Basin, and across the Idaho Panhandle. Jan Perez and her boyfriend Bob discover Chris by the side of a road and befriend him in Cut Bank, Montana. Or no, not in Cut Bank. Sorry. So yeah, just that alone, 2 months, he hitchhikes to Lake Tahoe, then hikes into the Sierra Nevada mountain range, then travels to the Cascade Mountains across the Columbia River Basin and across the Idaho Panhandle in 2 months.
Yeah, he's just on the move.
Just on the move. I mean,
see, this is why this story isn't just like a news story.
Yeah.
He led a very poetic life.
Yeah.
Like all the criticisms or the things that people would want to levy, and I know you're going to get into it, but like it's a very poetic, like, I don't know if it's like hero's journey. It's like a kid trying to figure himself out and doing it in like a very adventurous way, and so like that, it's like an enjoyable tale.
And just to have the, I guess call it courage to just do this. I mean, I don't know a lot of young people that could just give up everything and just start, living the nomad lifestyle. And like, he just made it work.
I know like 30-year-olds that can't do their laundry. So like,
yeah,
like everything we just described would like end some people.
Yeah, that would be over. So August 1990, Chris's parents drive to Atlanta looking for their son and discover that his apartment was vacated 5 weeks earlier. It's around this time that Chris actually changes his name to Alexander Supertramp, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the Supertramp, he must have been a fan of the band Supertramp. I think I've heard a few of their songs.
Yeah.
So
they're one of those ones where you'd recognize the music, but you wouldn't be able to peg it was them.
August 10th of 1990, he gets he receives a ticket for hitchhiking in Willow Creek, California. Didn't know they handed out tickets for hitchhiking, but October 1990, his Datsun is discovered by a park ranger. October 28th of 1990, in Needles, California, reaches the Colorado River, walks south through the desert, arriving in Topak, Arizona, where he buys a secondhand canoe. Now, from October to November 1990, he canoes on the Colorado River, apparently traveling through Lake Havasu, the Bill Williams River, the Colorado River Indian Reservation, the Cibola National Wildlife Refuge, the Imperial National Wildlife Refuge, and the U.S. Army's Yuma Proving Ground. He sends a postcard to Wayne Westerberg at the Sioux Falls Work Release Facility where his friend has been incarcerated. So like I said, Wayne was a gentleman who offered Chris a job at a grain elevator at one point. So now in December of 1990, a private investigator employed by the family discovered that their son had donated $24,000 to Oxfam. So he had gotten rid of all of his money too. On December 2nd of 1990, he reaches Morelos Dam and the Mexican border.
So I had that picture. I'll pull that up.
Yeah, so this is all. He's still canoeing right now. So there's the dam, I'm assuming.
He's just like, I'm going to canoe to Mexico.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's impressive how much ground he covers.
And in the 90s, so like no cell phones, like you're figuring it out. Yeah, you're figuring it out as you're going.
Yeah, just like, remember those old maps you'd have, like book maps you'd have in your car?
Yeah, triptychs.
Yeah.
We always had a triptych like that. Yeah. Remember you'd get for the newer listeners, like we would do a road trip to Florida to go to Disney, and we'd family down there. We would go to a store and go talk to like a person behind a counter and say, hey, we're planning to drive to Orlando. And then this person would get a specific map for that drive.
Yeah.
And proceed to walk you through the route and tell you where he perceives there to be police traps or where heavy, like they would have analog information that like Waze gives you now on the fly.
Yeah.
And you'd have to go get that ahead of time. And it'd be like a little pocket notebook and you flip through the pages. So as you're going, you'd like, what page are we on? There's like 115 pages to drive through.
Yeah.
And I would remember I'd sit shotgun and be like, oh, this is a police are jerks here, like according to AAA.
And people probably, young people probably wonder, like, why do they have all those signs on the side of the road with like the miles to a city?
Mile markers?
Like, well, that's because before Google and GPS, like, you didn't know where you were going unless you saw a sign for it.
Let's see if they even have pictures of this thing. Yeah, here it is, the triptych.
Triptych.
I loved these things, like, because I could never sleep in a car.
Yeah.
So for those listening, there it is. Like it literally is like this highlight means that this is where the police are very heavy. Like they would like put notes in it for you and be like, their whole job was about knowing the route.
I loved on long trips opening up the maps and just like exploring, like looking around and seeing, I don't know. It sounds stupid.
You know what just hit me?
What?
They're like the last remnant of like the guy who traveled across like the West. Like think about like there's people along the Oregon Trail that like knew the trail.
Yeah.
So you always wanted to find those people. Like, hey, what do we need to look out for? What are like that's the AAA guy.
Yeah.
Before the internet, like that was the last guy. It's like, hey, I just drove through Indiana.
Yeah.
The cops here. Yeah, a lot of cops. Watch out here. Like, oh, the tolls are bad here. The roads kind of stink. Like he knows the route.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's like the evolution of that guy who like knew the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it's so bad now with like Google Maps. Sometimes, because I use it in the morning when I drive to work just to know if there's traffic or not. And sometimes if I don't have it up, once or twice I've missed my exit. Because I'm just like, without it on, I'm just like, oh, where do I go?
Like idiocracy.
Yeah.
Just dumbed down.
Yeah. So like I said, he's still canoeing at this point. So it's December 6th now of 1990. He encounters a hazardous waterfall along the Colorado River. On December 12th of 1990, he realizes that he will not reach the Gulf of California traveling this route, and he meets some duck hunters who drive him there. So now from December 14th to 24th of 1990, he pulls his canoe out of the water and sets up camp on the edge of a desolate plateau. December 25th of 1990, he seeks refuge from high winds, discovers a cave on the face of a bluff where he stays for 10 days. January 11th of 1991, back in his canoe, he encounters a violent storm that almost drowns him. Joe's showing a picture of him with his canoe right now. January 16th of 1991, leaving his canoe at the El Golfo de Santa Clara, starts wandering northward. And I believe at this point, he abandoned his canoe from that storm. I think I read that the storm was kind of the last straw. He was like, all right, I'm done with the canoeing part. Yeah. So on January 18th of 1991, he is caught by U.S. immigration officials when he tries to slip back into the country from Mexico and spends a night in jail. I mean, this guy has a really cool story. I'm not going to lie.
As I said, it's extremely poetic.
Yeah.
I want to do all the things
right.
that he just mentioned.
Yeah. So then from January to February of 1991, he travels to Houston and then to the Pacific Coast. February 3rd of 1991, he applies for an ID and a job in Los Angeles, then changes his mind and returns to the road. February 9th.
Like a brief moment, like, maybe I should go back to living a normal life. And he's like,
right.
He probably tried it for a day. I was like, no.
I can't.
Not after the things I've seen.
February 9th of 1991, he camps at the bottom of the Grand Canyon with a young German couple, and he notes in his journal that he's lost over 25 pounds at this point. February 24th of 1991, he unearths a few belongings that he buried in the sand when he abandoned his Datsun. So he's kind of circled back to where his car was last at. February 27th, 1991, he buries his backpack and hitchhikes into Las Vegas. I don't know why he buried...
He's like storing... he's like cashing.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like he had nowhere else to put it. If you think about it, like, I guess it's here.
Yeah.
And it worked. Yeah, he came back to it. That's wild.
So May 10th of 1991, he leaves Las Vegas. So then July to August 1991, it gets a little uncertain what he does, but he possibly was living in coastal Oregon. He sends a postcard to Jan complaining about the intermittent fog and rain. October of 1991, he arrives in Bullhead City, Arizona, where he works for 2 months at a McDonald's and lives in an empty RV overseen by an old man named Charlie. And I believe I read something that this might have been the longest he stayed at a single location.
That's actually wild to think about, because you run into people working jobs all the time.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, like, if you ever encounter one, you never know it.
Yeah.
It was like somebody got served fries from this guy.
A lot of people did.
Like, a lot of people did. Like,
Yeah.
if you worked at the place, like, isn't
Didn't
that
even
wild?
know it. Yeah.
And they had no idea.
No, it's crazy.
And he probably even talked about it and was like, oh, right, yeah, sure. Because, like, people are like, oh, I'm going to do this someday. It's like, no, he actually is going to.
Yeah. Hopefully he bulked back up while he was there, eating all the McDonald's.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, back then it was, like, a little more healthy.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
A little bit.
So December 9th now of 1991, we're getting closer to when he goes to Alaska. So he sends a postcard to Jan from Niland, California, including a map so she and boyfriend Bob can visit him in Bullhead City. December 13th, 1991, unexpectedly appears at Burez's campsite at the Slabs Campground in Niland. January 1992, he meets Ronald Franz while hitchhiking near California's Salton Sea. February 1992, he's dropped off by Franz at the San Diego waterfront, mails Jan a postcard telling her that he has been living on the streets in San Diego for a week. March 5th of 1992, he sends postcards to Burez and Franz from Seattle. So now he's up in Seattle. I mean,
He's just bebopping around everywhere.
I hope someone out there calculated the mileage he put on. Like every stop, how many miles?
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to know. March 12th of 1992, calls Franz from Coachella, California in the desert, not far from the Salton Sea, and asks Franz to pick him up. So now he's back down in California. March 13th of 1992, he spends a night at Franz's house. March 14th of 1992, he's driven by Franz to Grand Junction, Colorado. Now, this is an approximate date. So between March 14th to March 28th of 1992, he once again met up with Wayne Westberg's Westberg and worked at his grain elevator in Carthage, South Dakota. Some point in March 1992, he leaves Carthage and he's now bound for Alaska. So we are finally getting to the true timeline.
He's not even in Alaska.
Yeah, I mean, I could have probably cut all that out, but I just wanted.
That's information I think that's not told.
It's just I just am amazed by how much he moved around.
Yeah,
like,
he was all over the place.
He's in San Diego, and then like 4 days later, he's in Seattle. And then 4 days later, he's down in California again. Like, I mean, that's a lot of moving around. And I'm assuming he had no money, so he's hitchhiking this entire time.
Yeah, he's just working his way through it.
Yeah,
figuring it all out.
So April 13th to 15th of 1992, he stops at the Liard Hot Springs in British Columbia, Canada, where he is stuck for 2 days before hitching a ride with Gaylord Stuckey in a cab of his sunflower seed hauling truck. April 18th of 1992, he hitchhikes north. He takes a photo of the sign that marks the official start of the Alaskan Highway. So I don't know if
I'm going to try and find that.
I
didn't see it yet.
It's now April 18th to the 21st of 1992. He reads up on edible plants at the University of Alaska's Fairbanks campus, buys a used gun, and sends postcards. Leaving the campus, he hikes west. So this next date is an approximate date. We're not 100% sure, but April 22nd of 1992, he pitches his tent on frozen ground not far from the Stampede Trail. It is now April 28th of 1992. So walking down the highway, he's picked up by Jim Gallion, a truck-driving electrician on his way to Anchorage. A 3-hour drive brings Chris to the Stampede Trail. He notes in his journal on April 30th of 1992 that he saw Mount McKinley. May 1st of 1992, he finds an old bus beside the Shoshone River and writes "Magic Bus Day" in his journal. Decides to stay for a while, taking advantage of the bus's crude comforts. So this is really the start of his time living at the bus. So, like I said, he really started his hike on the 28th at the trail. He gets to the bus by May 1st of 1992. And a lot of this information comes from his journal, which Joe is actually, for those watching, is showing a picture of.
Now I'm showing it.
Now
you always assume I'm showing it.
Were you showing any of that stuff before?
No, I was searching.
People
don't want to watch me search.
Okay.
I turn it off when I'm looking.
All right. So yeah, he's got on here. And so the numbers reference days. So like day 1, exit Fairbanks. Day 2,
I like his handwriting.
Yeah. Day 4, Magic Bus Day. 5, Brown Bear Day. So very interesting. And I will actually read through some of the diary at the end of the timeline just to give an idea of, you can kind of see how he went from upbeat to kind of how it ended. And there was a book called Out of the Wild that basically went through this entire journal and turned it into a book. And it's still available on Amazon. It's expensive though. It's like $65. So I'll keep going while you look through that. So like I said, a lot of these dates now are coming from his journal. So it's May 5th of 1992. He notes kills and eats a spruce grouse. May 9th of 1992, shoots a small squirrel and writes 4th day famine in his journal. So from mid-May 1992, with only 4 hours of darkness each night, can forage for edible plants, feasts on lingonberries and rose hips. May 22nd of 1992, he noted that a crown in his tooth fell out of his molars, so that probably is pretty painful. From May to June of 1992, he's regularly eating squirrel, spruce grouse, duck, goose, and porcupine. June 9th of 1992, so he actually killed a moose on June 9th.
43rd day.
And takes a photo of himself with the carcass. I don't know if you were able to find that picture.
There's one where he's holding up the antler of it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so that's probably... Maybe it's back there. It's very grainy, so I don't know if.
Yeah, but that's probably around when he got it. So, so he was able to take a moose down with a 22. So
there you go.
Yeah. June 10th of 1992, he writes, amid hordes of flies and mosquitoes, butchers the moose carcass and tries to preserve the meat. Sadly, though, on June 14th of 1992, he discovered maggots on the carcass and abandoned it to the local wolves. July 3rd of 1992, he prepares his backpack and sets out on a 20-mile hike back to the road. So it appears that on July 3rd, he actually was kind of like, okay, I'm done. I don't really want to be out here any longer. I think I'm going to go back to the road and continue my trek. Unfortunately, July 5th of 1992, what had been a series of frozen beaver ponds in April has become a lake. What once was an easily fordable river is now a raging torrent that Chris couldn't pass. So he headed back to the bus.
Yeah, he wrote, rained in, river look impossible, lonely, scared.
Yeah, so I think he realized at that point that he was going to be out there much longer than I think he planned on.
That's really unfortunate.
So it's July 8th now. So he arrives back at the bus. Now the messages in the journal start getting kind of sadder and more desperate. So July 30th of 1992, he writes in his journal in all capital letters, extremely weak, fault of pot seed, much trouble just to stand up, starving, great jeopardy. So
it's 94th day.
That's where we'll get into theories of what might have killed him, but pot seed, he's referring to wild potatoes, and the seeds are toxic if you eat them. So at least there's debate on that. We'll get into that. Mm-hmm. So August 5th of 1992, he writes, day 100, made it, but in weakest condition of life, death looms as serious threat. So he's not oblivious of what is going on. And he goes on 2 weeks to walk out, have literally become trapped in the wild, no game. So no game, he must mean there's no animals to hunt.
Yeah.
August 9th of 1992, he sees a bear but doesn't shoot it, kills 5 squirrels. August 11th, kills and eats a ptarmigan. Ptarmigan?
It's like a pterodactyl. P is silent.
Oh, wow. I forgot to phonetically spell that one.
Yeah.
Oops. August 12th of 1992, he posted an SOS note on the bus door, forages nearby for berries, writes his final journal entry, beautiful blueberries.
Attention possible visitors, SOS, I need your help. I am injured, near death, and too weak to hike out of here. I am all alone. This is no joke. In the name of God, please remain to save me. I am out collecting berries close by and shall return this evening. Thank you. That's really sad.
Yeah. And what date was that? I think I have it written down.
It doesn't say in his journal like when he left the note.
I just lost my spot. Hold on here.
Yeah.
I had the date. It was, I believe, early August. 1 second here.
I can back out and see if they say.
Here we go. August 12th. So this is only a few days before he's theoretically passed away. And those are days. So he marked. So this is why they think on August 18th or 19th of 1992 he passed away, is because in his journal, so 108, he just marked a line. So he was alive, 109, alive, 110, 111, 112, alive, then no line on 113. So he marked end of 112, he probably marked the line and then created 113, and they believe he passed away in his sleep.
Oh, like night. He might have made the next day and crossed it the next time?
Well,
that's wild to think about. Like, what if he just made all of them and, like, in a delirium crossed them?
I don't think...
I guess it doesn't matter.
No, I think he, on day 112, he was in really rough shape. End of the day, he's like, I made another day, crossed the line. All right, 113. Just, assuming I'll be here again when I wake up in the morning. And sadly, it's speculated. No one will ever know, but they speculate that he passed away in his sleep.
It's so haunting to look at this.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like you're literally looking at his own countdown, but he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking at it like it's a countdown.
know it, though,
at
if you
the
read
end, but like
Yeah.
when you start at the beginning, like here's the beginning of the end for him.
Yeah.
Because you can see it all.
And honestly, before his realization that he couldn't cross that river, he didn't see it that way. Like, and you can see like how, I mean, you can't really, it seems more upbeat and
In the beginning?
in the beginning. Like, I mean,
Oh yeah,
lot of
he's
it's
having
one
he's
words
having
and-
a great time.
but then things start going south when he realizes he can't cross that river. And that's when his, messages in the journal, start to turn a little. What was that? Day 70, I think.
Let me see. Like where he starts really kind of thinking like this is it.
Well, no, when he realizes he can't cross that river, that was, that was like July 5th. So,
I saw it in here.
Oh.
Let's see.
I think it's, I don't know,
I'll find it.
but
I just saw it.
yeah, we were reading it.
I know. That's so bad.
But yeah, it is kind of haunting reading this journal. It's I didn't even think of that when I was going through this. It's kind of like a countdown to his own demise.
Yeah.
And for a lot of it, he didn't even know that yet.
You can like almost feel the anxiety and like the slow decline when
Yeah.
you read the way he writes, what he says. And it totally is like if you let your mind go, the rest follows.
And I think this probably helped him stay kind of grounded a little,
Yeah.
like it kind of gave him a bit of a purpose, I would think, kind of chronicling every day. Like, cause you can imagine if you're out there alone for months at a time, I mean, you could go crazy. But yeah, you can kind of see the realization setting in as the journal entries go on.
Yeah, like look at this one.
Yeah.
Like, did he eat psilocybin mushrooms? He wrote many mushrooms and then wrote
Dream in huge letters.
like arrows, and it says 2 infinity holes, one at the belt, one at the foot, gives frequency. Like he probably ate some wild psilocybin mushrooms and like had a mushroom trip
and got lucky that he didn't eat one of the poisonous varieties.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it starts getting, but that last page is kind of like the hardest to read.
Yeah, where it's just
And there's just dashed lines like
2 week to walk, no game,
missed a bear, 5 squirrels. I mean, he's getting food though.
It's just not enough.
No.
Or it's like
He's
not.
so weak at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
5 squirrels is not going to be a lot of meat.
No.
But at that
Not
point,
when you're starving.
You're probably eat anything. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not even done with the timeline yet. So,
Yep, keep going.
okay, so like I said, sadly, based on the journal entries that he has, they speculate he passed away sometime on August 18th or 19th of 1992 of apparent starvation in his sleeping bag in the bus. And on September 6th of 1992, moose hunters found Chris's decomposed body in the sleeping bag inside the bus, weighing only 67 pounds at the time of discovery. The official cause of death was determined to be starvation, but there's speculation about poisoning from wild potato seeds. So,
Here's a picture inside the bus.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty rugged.
It's honestly, he lasted as long as he did because he found that bus.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been game over a long time ago for him. He was able to get
he was
heat.
sheltered from the elements.
Yeah, he could cook food on this thing.
Like
and
metal
start fires.
metal roof. It looks like the windows are still intact in spots.
Yeah, I think they got busted more. Obviously, it sit out there longer.
Yeah. But you're exactly right. I think without that bus, he probably would have passed away sooner.
Absolutely.
And that just mentally, you know what? Mentally having that bus helps you stay alive.
I 100% agree. You find a place like that, it's like you've basically found like an empty mansion.
Yeah. So like we said, he passed away inside the abandoned bus that served as his shelter for the preceding 110 days. Found alongside his remains was his .22 caliber rifle, a collection of aged books, a camera containing 5 exposed film rolls, and the diary that we've obviously been talking about. So I just wanted to go into some of the journal entries that Joe, we were looking at, and I'll just read through them. So you can kind of, if you hear them in rapid fire as it's going on, you maybe kind of get a sense of how the 100 and some days went. So day 2, fall through the ice day. Day 4, magic bus day. Day 9, weakness. Day 10, snowed in. Day 13, porcupine day. Day 14, misery. Day 31, move bus, graybird, ashbird, squirrel, gourmet duck. Day 43, moose. Day 48, maggots already. Smoking appears ineffective. Don't know. Looks like disaster. I now wish I had never shot the moose. One of the greatest tragedies of my life. Day 68, beaver dam, disaster. Day 69, rained in. River looks impossible. Lonely, scared. Day 74, terminal man, faster. Day 78, missed wolf, 8 potato seeds and many berries coming.
Yeah, he was already so hungry.
Yeah. Day 94, woodpecker, fog, extremely weak. Fault of potato seed, much trouble just to stand up, starving, great jeopardy. Day 100, death looms as serious threat, too weak to walk out, have literally become trapped in the wild, no game. Day 101 to 103, no written entries, just the days listed. Day 104, missed bear. Day 105, 5 squirrels, caribou. Day 107, beautiful berries. Day 108 to day 113, days were marked only with slashes, and that's the end.
See, it's such a poetic story.
It's a wild story.
It is a wild story.
I watched the movie, but I don't know if the movie, I'll have to rewatch the movie now.
Well, I think I think they changed some stuff. Like, didn't hunters find him in the movie?
Well,
and not a couple.
No,
see, and I'm going off of a deep memory.
No, moose hunters found his decomposed.
Oh, okay.
So, like, this bus. Well, I'm going to get into the history of the bus now because I was really curious. The first thing I thought of when I read through this, I'm like, why was that bus out there?
Yeah, why is that bus out there?
So let me go into that.
All right.
So a little bit here on the bus. So the bus in question is a 1946 International Harvester K5, originally used as part of the Fairbanks City Transit System in Alaska. When it was abandoned, it was painted in the city transit colors, which were green and white on the roof. Over time, due to exposure to the elements, it became dilapidated with rust, broken windows, and other signs of decay. Inside, when Chris found it, there were remnants of its past uses, including seats, a wood stove, and basic furnishings that had been added when it was used as a shelter. Chris himself added some personal items like boots and his camping gear. The bus obviously was initially used for public transportation in Fairbanks. In the early 1960s, the Utan Construction Company purchased the bus along with others for use in road building project along what is now known as the Stampede Trail. This trail was being developed to provide access to mines near the area. The project involved extending the road from the existing trail, but was never completed to the extent planned. The company stripped the bus of its engine to make it lighter for transport and towed it out to the wilderness site to serve as a temporary housing for workers. After the project was halted or completed, most of the buses were removed, but bus 142 was left behind due to a broken axle, making it impractical to move. After the construction crew left, the bus remained, becoming a known shelter for hunters, trappers, and adventurers in the area, and it was used sporadically by these individuals until Chris found it in 1992. So it was brought out there for a shelter because it had a stove in it and for construction workers. And just by sheer chance that an axle broke, they couldn't tow it back out, so they left it. And it was known by people have been using it for decades. Like hunters that were in the area would use it for a night, or trappers.
See, that's like the kind of stuff I love thinking about the full timeline of.
Yeah,
like when that thing broke down, they're like, leave it.
Yeah,
like little did they know the impact. It would become just leaving it there. It becomes such an iconic thing.
That it is in a museum now.
Yeah, like if you would have told you guys like, hey, if we leave this here, movies will be made.
Yeah,
books will be written.
Yeah, people will risk their lives to come see this bus.
Yes.
I mean, it's wild to think
It's
about.
completely wild to think about.
So the bus remained in its location until June of 2020 when it was removed by the Alaska Army National Guard.
How come?
Due to safety concerns. So multiple people had died, 2 that I could find, or required rescue while attempting to reach the bus. It was airlifted to a secure location, is now housed at the University of Alaska's Museum of the North in Fairbanks for preservation and eventual public display. So we'll get to theories at the end. I want to go into kind of the legacy. Oh, there's a picture of a Huey lifting it out. That had to be a sight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, now there's a picture of it on display, or at least.
Yeah, our roommate Ryan hiked to it. He's got a picture sitting in front of it, like in a chair, just like in the same pose. A lot of people did that.
Yeah. So
I would have liked to have done that before it got moved.
So the legacy behind Chris's crazy adventure to this bus is really profound. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, this is one of the biggest wilderness stories out there. It's up there with the movie Alive and The Revenant and 127 Hours. I mean, this is, if you're into survival wilderness movies based on real events, like this is on your list to watch.
Or if you're like in your mid-20s, early 30s trying to figure your life out, you can really relate to what he was going through.
Yeah.
Like done with college, not sure, just kind of craving adventure, which I think a lot of people have, even a little bit. So
we all go through that phase in life.
Yeah, and it's like,
and most of us don't do anything about
just
it.
like I said, I'd love to go do all that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
No, not now.
But I would love to.
Yeah. I mean, most people, that's why I say everyone feels this way at some point in their young adult life. But
Just craves adventure.
Most people don't actually do it.
And that's where I think, like, I admire him and his story because he did it.
Yeah.
Like, no matter, obviously woefully underprepared.
Yeah.
Maybe not having any of the proper precautions taken. A lot of them were considered, but like just too green to pull off something like this, but he did it anyway.
And to his credit, he didn't plan to live out there forever.
Yeah.
He tried to come back and he couldn't.
Yep.
So
that just goes to show the remoteness of that place too, because it took 100 some days for someone to stumble across it.
Yeah.
Like he was legitimately out there alone.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So like I said, the legacy of his adventure is crazy. So it first started with John Krakauer's book, Into the Wild. So this book not only brought Chris's story to the public eye, but also became a bestseller, influencing countless readers with its narrative of adventure, idealism, and tragedy. It has been praised for its literary quality and criticized for its portrayal of Chris, but it undeniably shaped how a generation viewed wilderness exploration and personal liberation. And then in 2007, Sean Penn adapted it into a movie, and this further cemented Chris's story in popular culture. The movie received critical acclaim, including Oscar nominations, and included his tale and introduced his tale to an even broader audience, romanticizing his journey and sparking debates on its portrayal. Some of the other things just culturally that his story did was, a symbol of adventure. So Chris had become an icon for those seeking adventure, simplicity, or escape from conventional life. His story inspired many to explore nature, question societal norms, and seek personal fulfillment through solitude and self-reliance. However, this has also led to concerns about unprepared adventurers following in his footsteps, like we mentioned. It led to some real debates on individualism versus responsibility. So his journey has sparked discussions about the ethics of individualism, the responsibility one has towards family and society, and the thin line between bravery and recklessness. These debates touch on broader themes of freedom, self-sufficiency, and the pursuit of happiness. So, foundational things that this country was founded on.
But you know what's funny? I like how you put it and how it's so true, that if he survived, it'd be much more of a hero's journey.
The book and movie may never even been made.
Oh, it would have been made, but it would have been like a completely different story. Like this is like a poetic ending. It's kind of like,
it's a story.
It's a little morbid,
crafted for
it's just like it's like a look what society has done to our young people. Like, why does he feel the need to do this? Like, that's one way of looking at it. Like, it's like a poetic sad death versus if he survived, he'd be like a life coach. Like, here's what I learned.
He would be like Bear Grylls times 100.
Yeah, and like he would be talking about the things he didn't understand, the mistakes he made. But
can you imagine if
it'd
he was
be a
alive
wildly
now,
different story?
He would be like the one you talk to if someone went missing. Like, he'd give us your thoughts.
He would have wrote a book about his experience, and like he'd be going to the speaking circuits.
In an alternate universe, he's alive, and this is happening.
Yeah, he's like doing a TED Talk.
Yeah. So in the Into the Wild bus, so the bus where he lived became a pilgrimage site for thousands. Like Joe said, we knew a guy that went there, and a symbol of both his ideals and tragic end. And though the bus was removed, its story obviously continues to resonate and symbolizes the allure and dangers of the wilderness, something we talk about all the time on the show. And finally, educational. So his story is often taught in literature classes, used in discussions about narrative nonfiction, and as a case study in survival ethics and psychology. So, I mean, there's so much material that you can latch onto here, depending on what you're trying to convey. So that was his legacy of what, and he did not intend for any of this to happen. Yeah. I doubt he was going out there and be like, well, I hope they write a movie about this. Like, he just wanted to live in the wild and unplug. We all want to do that. So I also wanted to give counterpoints so we just went through the whole timeline, and I think it's a crazy, amazing story, and I totally can understand why he did it. I totally get it.
Oh yeah, I totally get it.
I totally get it, but I also wanted to just give a counterweight to what he did, because at the time when this happened, there was a lot of criticism of what he did.
Sure.
And so, one of the biggest criticisms was the lack of preparation. So a lot of people argued that he had inadequate survival skills. He didn't possess sufficient knowledge or skills for surviving in the harsh Alaskan wilderness. It lacked experience in long-term wilderness living, especially in such extreme environments. And that this is coupled with inefficient equipment. He didn't bring the essential survival gear, like he's hiking in jeans. And so, I mean, another major criticism that people levied on him was he was kind of naive and arrogant. So, he had overconfidence. Some view his journey as an act of hubris. He believed he could live off the land without the necessary preparation, underestimating the dangers of the wilderness. I think a lot of people fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Just in, hiking in general. Like, I've seen people hiking out pretty far in like sandals, t-shirt, and shorts. Like,
yeah,
if something happened to that person and they got stuck out there, they would be dead. I mean, so yeah, I think that is a common thing that happens to a lot of people.
And sometimes those people are arrogant. I've had so many people. There was a meme for a little bit that I almost fell prey to, like the trolls that were trying to suck me in with it. Yeah. It was like, hey, dude, with your hiking stick and backpack, I did the same trail with my daughter in flip-flops.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Yeah. Good thing nothing happened.
Yeah, and nothing probably will happen.
And sometimes that trail is part of a much larger trail.
Yeah.
Like, so you might be passing somebody and you're only doing a mile. They might be doing 10 and spending the night. Like,
and we always say, like, disappearances and issues in the wilderness and backcountry are rare. They don't happen very often.
Yep.
But, why go out somewhere like that and not even be a little prepared? I mean, like hiking in sandals
yeah.
Another criticism was the romanticizing of nature. So his romantic view of living in the nature was seen as, like I said, naive, not accounting for the reality of survival in such conditions. And I would imagine probably natives of Alaska really were kind of pissed off by this. Like, who is this guy, coming up here and thinking he can just, live out in the wilderness for a whole year, and
which is a weird take because he paid the ultimate price for it.
Yeah,
it's yeah, okay, you're right. Congratulations.
Yeah,
like
I think maybe in a way that people that live in Alaska feel like the rest of us, maybe like Alaska's no different than living in Minnesota or like North
I'm
Dakota.
sure there's naive people, but
I mean, even just visiting there, like it's a different place.
yeah.
I mean, if you live in Anchorage, okay. But I mean, if you like out there
In the triangle?
yeah, in the triangle,
In all the triangles.
it's tough living. And I mean, you can't, most people wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they have that show where it's like the families that live out in the bush.
yeah.
And they do kind of like what those mammals do. They're like, all right, we survived winter.
Yeah.
It's warm again. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Preparing for winter.
Yeah.
There literally is no breaks.
Oh, there's a guy.
The irony is your break is winter.
Yeah.
Because you've done all the work, and now when it stinks outside, you're just like, well, this is where I get to slow down.
I'd love to shout out this YouTube channel I follow. This guy he converted this truck into like a little RV, and he drove and lived in the Alaska wilderness. You trying to find it?
Yeah, I'll pull up guy. You can keep talking about it
okay.
and let me know if I'm correct.
Well, scroll down. Not that guy. It's oh, there he is.
This dude?
Truck House Life. Yeah.
Truck House Life. All right, I'll
Watch
show
a
on the
little bit of.
screen. Oh, he's got 644,000 subscribers. Where did they send his play button?
Find out. Yeah. Right.
Alaska blizzard camping. Let's play.
Yeah.
this.
Play a little. Oh, we got.
That's right.
This is
We'll give Papa John some free advertising, I guess. Just for a little bit, though. Skip. I don't want YouTube offers.
So yeah, there's the
Look at
vehicle
that.
he's living
Yeah,
in.
it's just like a pickup truck with like a house attached to the back.
Yeah.
Like a tiny little cabin.
This guy's got a lot of cool videos. I think he just finished his trek in Alaska.
I like his editing.
Yeah, he does a good job. And this guy's prepared.
Yeah, he looks like he's all set up.
And he'll experience like his truck will have issues and he knows how to fix it and
That's wild.
so yeah. Just got a subscriber on Facebook.
Oh, that's what that is?
Yeah.
I thought someone was tapping on the glass.
No. So yeah, anyone I guess it's probably not great for the people listening, but
Yeah, it's just like the sound of winter.
yeah. But anyone
Look at this
that
sound.
has an interest in this kind of
Nice and toasting there. I think I've
content.
seen clips from this dude.
yeah, back out. What was? Sorry, I don't want to get the name of his channel wrong.
Yeah, to make sure we send all the people to it.
Truck
Truck
House
House Life.
Life on YouTube. Follow him.
Yeah,
if
Truck House Life.
you like this kind of content. So let me just get through some of the criticisms and we'll get on to theories quick. So another one of the criticisms people levied on him was the impact on his family. So a lot of people called what he did selfish. So he kind of cut off contact with his family, particularly without informing them of his whereabouts. And a lot of people saw that as kind of selfish. His parents and sister went through significant emotional distress during the time he was missing. People also called it irresponsible. So critics argue that his actions showed a lack of responsibility towards those who loved and worried about him, especially given the resources and support his family could have provided if they had reached out. Other people talked from a different aspect of it, ethical and legal concerns. So environmental impact. There's a lot of criticisms regarding the approach to the environment he had, such as his hunting practices, which some viewed as poaching since he didn't have the necessary permits. And also the fact that he abandoned his car people said that raised legal and ethical questions about responsibility and respect for property. And finally,
those are the same people who complain about our pronunciation.
yeah. Hey,
They don't. And according to one of our callers, they can suck it.
Yeah. I don't, necessarily prescribe to any of these criticisms. Like I said, I think this is an amazing story, and it's
If
tragic.
he survived,
Yeah.
tell him that you're upset with him
Yeah.
about it. It's he paid. Okay, yep, he littered. I'm not condoning that at all. He died for it.
Yeah.
So maybe they're even.
Well, and the final criticism that I read that people had was, he endangered himself and others. So by going into the wilderness unprepared, he risked not only his life, but potentially required rescue operations if he had survived long enough to need help.
Yeah.
which would have endangered others. And something he obviously wasn't aware of and didn't probably think it was going to happen, but he inspired other unprepared adventures. So, his story has inspired others to undertake similar journeys without proper
that first
preparation.
one doesn't really have merit because if people hunted in the area, I'd be like, okay, that's probably an easy hike for people who know the area.
You could make that argument for anyone who goes out into the national park.
The second one, okay, yes.
Yeah.
But that's also the people who decided to make that trek's fault also.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree.
The people that died trying to get to the bus, whatever, like they're individuals with individual choice.
And some people had criticisms of the book and movie that it kind of glorified this romance idea of the wilderness without really giving people a true sense of the hardship he went through, which, it's a movie and a book. Like, I think, people are grown adults. Like, if you see entertainment, like, you can make your own opinion on it.
There's a book about the really dangerous part of Iraq and the war.
Yeah.
So is it the book's fault that if people go there? Like, no, it's people that have too much time on their hands. They need something better.
We'll wrap this up quick. Theories on this one are pretty straightforward.
There's no theories. I think rabbit starvation is what they call it, when you're like getting food, but it's just not enough to sustain life.
Yeah, I think it falls down to just a couple things. Starvation, obviously, is the main driver. We know this for a fact through his journal entries. Poisoning by wild potato seeds. So the alkaloid toxicity that's in the wild potato plant. Hold on. So in the book, later proposed in his book, John Krakauer proposed that Chris might have ingested toxic seeds from the wild potato plant, which contains a neurotoxin or possibly an unidentified alkaloid. This theory suggests that the seeds could have caused paralysis or other neurological symptoms, exacerbating his condition and leading to his inability to forage effectively for food. However, there is debate on this topic. There has been debate over the toxicity of these seeds due to conflicting scientific studies. Some researchers argue that the levels of toxins might not be sufficient to cause death, suggesting other factors might have contributed. And obviously, the other thing is he could have misidentified plants. So there's a possibility that Chris misidentified other plants as food sources, leading to poisoning, which maybe not outright would kill you, but would over time slowly degrade.
Well, and if he ate a ton of mushrooms, I'm guessing they weren't all the same type. And there's a lot of toxic mushrooms.
Well, and there's another theory, mold toxicity. So another theory suggests that Chris might have consumed food contaminated with mycotoxins, which are poisonous compounds produced by certain molds. This could have happened if his stored food or the seeds he foraged were moldy, leading to sickness or death. And now a final theory is kind of multiple factors. So many believe that his death was likely due to a combination of factors rather than one single cause. So this would include nutritional deficiency, obviously lack of essential vitamins or minerals. And we talked about what happened in the Sir John Franklin episode where his crew got scurvy. And if you lack certain nutrients, it can cause some serious problems.
Vitamin C. Definitely not vitamin D.
Yeah. We got that one.
Definitely get in trouble again.
Yeah. Physical exhaustion, so strenuous activities in an already weakened state, and psychological stress. The isolation and the psychological toll of his situation might have impacted his ability to survive. So I tend to think it was a combination of, obviously starvation, a deficiency in nutrients. He was physically exhausted. I mean, this guy hiked a ton. The psychological stress being out there would put on you. And then factor in the potential of, maybe he was eating, maybe these potato seeds are toxic. Maybe his food had mold on it. Maybe there were other foods that he was unaware of were toxic that he was eating, could have stacked on top of all of the other things that were against him. And it finally all just built up to a breaking point when he sadly passed away on that 112, 113 day mark. So, what do you think of the story?
I mean, I already said what I think of the story. I think it's like very poetic.
Yeah.
I like the story. He seemed like a really rambunctious,
You couldn't make this
interesting
up.
individual.
This is like
I'm sure I would have loved hanging out with this guy.
yeah.
Probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with him.
No, he'd be gone.
At all?
Like you'd wake up
Yeah.
the next day and he's gone.
Yep. But
It's a Rolling Stone.
I am actually leaning more towards he might have eaten something rather than just simply starved to death. Whereas I used to think that he just slowly, like if you can only get 100 calories or 500 calories a day, eventually that wears out.
Yeah.
And it seems like
He even mentions the potato seed thing in his journal at one point.
yeah,
He called it pot seed.
yeah,
I just saw it scroll up.
yeah. It's up here.
Potato seeds.
And then, yeah, I don't know if it was the mushrooms because it was several days before he said he's extremely weak. But I mean, he's getting 3 squirrels. He wrote caribou.
Yeah.
I don't like even when he got the moose, he was eating good meat until it went bad.
Yeah.
Right, cooking it up. So I mean, right there is like almost like a start over.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I look at it. So that's day 40.
Eat
So
till you're like, you can't fit another piece of food down your
yeah,
mouth.
that's day 40. And maybe you can't eat that much, but he was at least eating good for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 5 days on moose meat.
Well, we don't know how long the moose meat would last.
Yeah. Well, he says getting remainder rib cage, shoulder, neck, start smoking. Like, so if he's starting smoking, he's eating the stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then it's not like there's periods of time where he doesn't have any food written, but he's getting birds.
To me, so he already had lost some weight just in his travels to Alaska. So I think he was probably
Unless
already,
he's just writing what he saw. Like
Yeah.
he didn't necessarily get those. But I saw pictures of squirrels and rabbits.
you would think that, he's
know.
probably losing so much body
Yeah,
mass.
maybe it was
that
just not enough calories.
Frequent and infrequent squirrel or rabbit's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, you're right.
And
it
if
could,
you
or
couple
it could be a mix of both.
If you couple it with potentially eating poisonous food,
Yeah.
that could be the real.
You're already weak, and then you put poison on top of it, and it just
Yeah.
further stresses you.
Yeah, not to mention the psychological toll this is taking on you. Yeah, I mean, he knew on day 100 death was imminent. He wrote it down.
Yeah. Death looms.
Missed a bear. I mean, think of how different this could have gone if he had gotten the bear.
I don't even know.
I mean,
No, he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 days away.
If he
he
could've-
could have revitalized.
revitalized and survived long enough for that river to freeze over again or
Yeah.
to calm down. Like, so it's raging at this time because it's summer, everything's melting, but summer doesn't last very long in Alaska.
Yeah.
I mean, he passed away in August. If he could have survived a couple months longer,
Yeah.
I don't know how many more months, but at some point he would have been able to cross that river again and get out of there. Or think about this. If he would have survived just until September 6th, those hunters would have found him.
That's what I always thought of. Like, if somebody
I
found
just
him.
didn't think of that.
Yeah, if he could have survived a little bit longer.
They think he passed away around the 18th.
Yeah.
So if he would have survived less than a month longer, he would have been found.
Yeah.
That's the craziest part.
It's so wild.
He was not that, he didn't know it. He thought he was like isolated and probably never would be found, but he was so close. It's not like,
And he lived that long because his workers left the bus.
yeah, it's not like someone found his remains 10 years later. It
Yeah.
was less than a month. Like,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they said they still smelled it. Like,
yeah.
so that even, yeah, I mean,
Animals
cold weather
hadn't even
probably.
scavenged it yet.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, so I didn't even
It's
think
so
of that
close.
when I was
Yeah,
researching.
it's so
It's like,
close to
he was
salvation.
so close to being rescued.
Yeah, that's really well. Good
No,
thing
we don't know that
I mean,
he would have been in a condition to even get out of there. At
That's
that
what I'm
point.
thinking. Like, even like kind of like if he's so far gone, you go to the hospital and you just
What you do
Just
is
die
you,
there.
you hope the hunters have some food on you.
yeah.
One of them stays with you, and the other guys go back, and they have to get like a helicopter out there to get you.
Yeah.
Crazy story. I can't believe I know I saw the movie back in the day.
Like how close they were to. I'm sure they made it seem closer in the movie. Like how they
I
were
don't know.
finding him.
I'm
in a
gonna have to
month, but-
rewatch the movie now. I don't remember the movie really at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, now I want to. I'm gonna
I know,
go home and watch it tonight. All right. Well, I don't have anything else.
I don't either.
I think it's pretty much well-known story.
yeah.
We just twisted it around a little bit, but thank you all for sticking with us through all of our banter and tuning into our show. We appreciate you all for listening and sharing locations unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where you can find all the videos to each episode. Also, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, visit our website or Facebook store to buy some sweet swag. Additionally, you can subscribe to Patreon, YouTube, Apple subscriptions, Spreaker subscriptions, wherever you get your bonus episodes, and additional events as well for paid customers. Lastly, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or simply taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we will see you all next time.